Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And before we get started on today's video, well, the video is going to be running in the background anyway, regardless of what I do or say, but it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention, and this is something that I probably should have mentioned a couple of days ago when it first became available, but those of you who missed the opportunity to get my very own self as an in-game captain in World of Warships when I was first made available after the ring contest, you now have another chance. Just activate the Wargaming code, Jingle all the way, and you will activate a combat mission, but it's a very easy combat mission. Over any number of battles, simply gain 5,000 base XP, and on completion of the mission, you'll get your very own 3-point Captain Jingles, which should immediately, of course, be placed on board the Warspite, because that's where I belong. But you can put me on board any of your British ships. If you already have a Captain Jingles, then activating this code and completing this mission will give you a second Captain Jingles. I know, what generosity. The code and the mission are valid until Christmas Day, the 25th of December. So if you were worried that you weren't going to have time to complete the mission, you don't need to be worried. Anyway, back on with today's video, the theme of which is ramming. That may be a bit of a spoiler. Who am I kidding? It's a major spoiler. But it's going to be fun anyway. So this particular clip, because we've got two battles for you in today's video, and the reason for that is because this first battle is Tier 9 3 versus 3 ranked sprint, and Tier 9 3 versus 3 ranked sprint doesn't tend to last very long, with this battle being no exception. This was an incredibly popular game mode. And for good reason, because there are some very, very good ships at Tier 9 which are particularly well suited to this kind of very short, intense, and what tends to be close quarters battle mode. Ships like the Musashi here, which Southpaw is sailing. There's another Musashi on his team, and a Georgia, all very good picks. There's one Musashi and a Georgia on the enemy team, as well as a Jean Bart, another excellent pick for 3 versus 3 ranked sprint at Tier 9. It's no real surprise to see how popular a choice the Musashi was. I mean, to all intents and purposes, it's a Yamato, except at Tier 9. It's got the Yamato armour, it's got the Yamato health pool, but more importantly, it's got the Yamato's guns. Less accurate versions of the Yamato's guns, but at the kind of ranges that these ranked sprint battles are getting fought at, accuracy really wasn't too much of a problem. Which is also why we tended to see a lot of Frederick the Great's, the old German Tier 9 battleship, although not in this particular battle. And here comes the enemy team. Yep, pretty much everybody just tended to sail straight towards each other and duke it out at point-blank range. Southpaw going for the enemy Georgia first, because the big advantage of the I was going to say Yamato, but it applies to the Yamato as well. Its guns are such large caliber that they can overmatch the maximum 32mm of bow and stern plating of almost every battleship in the game. The vulnerability of the Musashi and the Yamato at Tier 10 is, of course, this. You must keep the bows pointed straight towards the enemy, otherwise you give them the opportunity to do that, punch right through the cheek armour underneath the turrets, and citadel you from the front. I was wondering what the hell this friendly Georgia is doing. I mean, is he just suiciding? Is he going for an early ram? He's not. The Georgia, of course, is one of the few battleships in the game with an engine boost. So he's counting on that speed to be able to get him safely past the guns of all of the enemy ships and hopefully survive the drive-by. Speaking of which, this Georgia is definitely going for the ram. His guns are pointing at the other Musashi, and well, that was unexpected. There's that Tier 10 Yamato health pool on a Tier 9 Musashi, and probably also a ramming flag, proving to be worth its weight in gold. Meanwhile, the friendly Georgia, he's actually survived. Because don't forget, if you're going to do a drive-by of 3 enemy battleships, that means that at some point you're going to be giving broadside to 3 enemy battleships, but the Georgia's speed with the boost was enough easily to be able to outturn a Musashi's turrets, and once he'd gotten past the Jean Bart, all of the Jean Bart's turrets are in the front, although the secondaries all tend to be towards the rear, but the Jean Bart couldn't shoot at him either. Unfortunately, he's going too fast to be able to stop and slow down and turn around, so the Georgia is effectively out of the fight for the moment, cruising around the side of the island there. Southpaw once again going for the vulnerable cheek armour on the enemy Musashi, who still doesn't appear to have learned his lesson, but didn't give enough lead and take into account the Musashi's forward momentum. Southpaw's down to around 3,000 health now, but only the enemy Musashi is actually shooting at him, with the Jean Bart being blocked by the other friendly Musashi. And that was a much, much better aimed shot. And there's the kill. The Georgia is still trying to turn around, and unfortunately the friendly Musashi up ahead is falling victim to the same problem. Oh no, 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 you don't let the Jean Bart shoot at that. You might have more health than him, but if you keep doing that, you won't for very long. There it is. See, unfortunately, the friendly Musashi there didn't take into account something that Southpaw is very well aware of, because that's the last enemy ship. You're 100 points ahead, and the Georgia's still alive. So as long as the Jean Bart dies, and it doesn't matter how, you kill him, and you win. Next, for your viewing entertainment, we have Harfoot here in the SMS Nassau, which means this is a Tier 3 battle. Now, I don't normally show battles at this kind of level, for a number of reasons. First, you have to give everybody an incredible amount of slack, because at Tier 3, you don't know how to play, unless you're a reroll, or unless you're taking advantage of the Research Bureau to re-grind out the German battleship line, for example. But most of the people that you're going to see are going to be doing dumb shit because they don't know any better. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't laugh when people do dumb shit, if they're only Tier 3. You absolutely should, because people doing stupid things is always funny. But it's not as amusing as when you see people doing the same dumb shit at Tier 8, 9 or 10. You have to temper your amusement with the realisation that they really don't know any better. The other reason I tend to not feature Tier 3 battles is because there are so few people playing down at that kind of tier that a lot of the team slots tend to be made up of bots. This is particularly true if you're playing at Tier 3 on the North American server, for example. But today, as best I can tell, there are only 2 bots per side. So we've got 20 players here, actual players, in pretty stark contrast to what you normally see in Tier 3 battles, at least those Tier 3 battles that have been sent in to me, most of which tend to come from the North American server for some reason, in which there are possibly 2 or 3 actual players on each team, allowing them to run up cricket scores against the parade of bots that they're facing. Perhaps a word should be said about these bots, because these are co-op battle bots. Not the bots that you get in operations, which are a little bit more intelligent and don't just rush straight into your guns waiting to die one after another. Kind of like the bot Dirtsky over there is doing. In fact, kind of like the bot Tenryu that's fighting him is doing as well. Little story for you, by the way, about bots in World of Warships. Primarily, you see them in co-op battle and operations. But the operations bots, while they're not geniuses, have a slightly higher grade of AI than the co-op battle bots, which tend to basically just do what those 2 guys are doing, charge straight towards each other, guns and torpedoes blazing, and see who dies first. Despite, ironically, on this occasion, it's a player who's managed to get himself killed first. Somebody in a Valkyrie got torpedoed by a bot G101. But Wargaming did conduct an experiment and took the operations AI for the bots and tested it out in co-op battle, just to see what would happen. And what happened was that overnight, the win rating of co-op battle players dropped by 20%. The experiment was not considered a success and was quickly reverted. Now, I realise it's easy to laugh and poke fun at people who only play co-op battles in World of Warships. In fact, I just did. It might also be amusing to point out that in this, a standard battle, not a co-op battle, in which there are very few bots present, it was one of the bots that managed to get the first blood and devastating strike award before any of the players. But while it is easy to point the finger at and poke fun and laugh at players who restrict themselves to co-op battle and only play against bots, but what people all too often forget is not only is there nothing wrong with that, but there are several good reasons as to why it might be the preferred method of playing the game. First and foremost, if you are a co-op battle player and you enjoy it and have fun, that's all the reason you need. But if you insist on looking for further reasons, well, I and many others have recently taken part in a lot of co-op battles in order to unlock the super containers available on all of our tier 10 ships for the first win of the day. It's far easier and faster to do it in co-op than it is to go through 30 or more random battles, probably more because you're not guaranteed to win in random battles, when you can just do it in co-op with probably a 90% win rate. And then you've got the players who just can't put up with the toxicity that you get in chat in random battle. Admittedly, it's nowhere near as bad in World of Warships as it can be and often is in other games. Yes, World of Tanks and League of Legends, I'm looking at you here. And we're probably talking about the older demographic of players here, the ones that just want to play with ships and blow stuff up, and they can't be arsed with all the toxicity that often goes with playing against other people in random battle. And then you've got a not insubstantial portion of the player base who just don't enjoy playing random battles because they're not good enough to do well and have fun, often through no fault of their own. Players with severe mental or physical disabilities, for whom the very act of playing is difficult. So if players like this can have access to an easier version of the game, which is basically what co-op battle is, that they can physically take part in and have fun doing it, so much the better for everyone. And I do mean for everyone, because for all of you people in random battle complaining about the terrible standard of your teammates, imagine how much worse it would be for you if co-op battle was not available as an option, and people with mental or physical disabilities that meant they just weren't physically or mentally able to play to what you might consider an acceptable standard, didn't have the option of co-op battle to fall back on and were forced to play in random battle where they wouldn't be having fun and you certainly wouldn't enjoy having them on your team. To a degree, you could think of co-op battle as a form of skill-based matchmaking. Those who enjoy, play and stick to co-op battle are never going to be as good as people can be, emphasis on the word can be, if they play against other players in random battle. Because one of the most surefire ways of improving your game is playing against people who are better than you, providing you're prepared to accept and learn from the lessons that can be learned from playing against superior players in random battle. Not something that's ever going to happen if all you do is play against bots in co-op, but at the same time, you're not hurting anybody by not getting better at the game because all you do is play against bots in co-op, even if you're physically or mentally incapable of getting better at the game and playing any better than you already do anyway. But again, you're not hurting anybody, and you're having fun, and that's the only reason you need. So regardless what you may or may not think about co-op battle in World of Warships or the standard of gameplay contained therein, even if you don't play co-op battle and never will, there are any number of different reasons why you should be grateful that it exists. Anyway, that's enough about bots. I think they're all dead by now, in this battle at least. Quick check. Yes, they are. If you're wondering how you can actually identify who is a bot and who isn't, a bot will always have a colon before their name. If you don't know what a colon is, because you didn't pay attention in English class or English isn't your first language, it's two dots vertically, one above the other. If somebody's got that in front of their name, they're a bot. And it looks like one of the not bots is about to die, with any luck. Go, Gadget Nassau. Oh, yeah, got him. The Nassau's a pretty good ship, by the way. I realise I should have probably spent a bit more time talking about the actual ship that Harfoot is playing. Oh, we're probably going to lose that Tenryu if he doesn't get out of there sharpish. Nope, he's gone. He managed to sail into one of the torpedoes. Okay. But yes, the Nassau. Pretty good ship. The range of its guns is terrible, I'll give you that much. In fact, the range of the guns is almost, but not quite, the same range at which the ship will be spotted on the surface. But while the guns have pretty bad range and they're not particularly accurate, and the surface detection range is terrible, so you're unlikely to ever catch anybody by surprise in this ship, and the guns are lower caliber than the guns that you might find on comparable battleships, it does have a lot of them. And it's a reasonably well armoured and very small target. This was the first dreadnought built by the Imperial German Navy in direct response to the launching of HMS Dreadnought. And wait a minute. What is the Taranto doing? You know there's a destroyer around that corner, right? He just torpedoed the Tenryu. You can see the smoke screen. That was I think it's the Farang. That was his fourth kill. There he is. Oh, this could hurt. Swiggity swiddy, he's coming for some Nassau booty. Gotta get eyes on target, waiting for the island to get out of the way. Shots out, got him, but did he get his torpedoes away? Half-foot slowing down just in case. Turning in. Meanwhile, bringing his guns to bear on the St. Louis over there. And yeah, he did get the torpedoes away. The first set going to miss. The second set? Probably not. Yep, he's going to take one. Well, that wasn't good, but it could have been a lot worse. Oh, he used the damage control on the single flood. I think that's a holdover from the days when floods were really bad news. A single flood could easily do as much damage as a triple fire, but those days are long gone. These days, extinguishing a single flood is just as silly as extinguishing a single fire. And he could have been in a lot of trouble here if the St. Louis had been shooting at him. But the St. Louis is not shooting at him. St. Louis is a remarkably tough Tier 3 cruiser. But there's cruiser tough and then there's battleship tough. It's not tough enough to stand up to this kind of battering from a Nassau at this kind of range. I think the reason for the St. Louis's toughness is because the internals of the ship are actually protected along the sides by a bunch of coal bunkers. That's where the St. Louis stored its fuel. But either way, it's dead. And Harfoot is not, and he's capping again. And I was about to say, they outnumbered the enemy team 2-1, 4 ships to 2. But right before I could open my big fat stupid mouth and put my big fat stupid foot in it, the enemy South Carolina killed the Bogatyr. But still, 3-2, and they do have a destroyer. And 2 of the cap circles. And a points lead. So it's still pretty good. I mean, it's difficult to see. Oh, I realise I'm asking for trouble here. it's difficult to see how the team could lose. All you have to do is stay alive. Okay, that is a full health South Carolina, and yeah, the destroyer doesn't have an awful lot of health, and I'm pretty sure the Taranto took a bit of a beating as it was getting shot at by the St. Louis. Yep, doesn't have a lot. Oh dear, why are you? Well, low tier players. The South Carolina is definitely not a good ship. It's pretty bad, but it is a battleship. And the Taranto, if you keep doing that, there's an excellent chance you're going to get spanked good and hard. Okay, the Taranto got away with it for now, although that shot missed by so much it's difficult to say whether it was aimed at the Taranto or Harfoot's Nassau. And also, looking at the clock, there's 8 minutes and 19 seconds left. That's a low health destroyer and a low health cruiser who have to stay alive for the next 8 minutes. And what is the Taranto? He was in cover. He'd made it out of the line of sight of the South Carolina. And the Tenryu. And then he turned out of cover into open water, and now he's getting shot at by everybody again. And he's continuing to return fire on ships that have vastly more health than him. And he's on fire. And he's extinguished the fire, which it may have only been a single fire, but it would have killed him if he hadn't put the fire out, so we'll let him get away with that one. But he needs to stop shooting and hide. Because if he dies, which is what's going to happen if they see him and start shooting at him again, all he's going to succeed in doing is giving points to the enemy team. What should be happening here is the Taranto is hiding behind an island, and the destroyer is spotting targets for him so he can shoot at them without being seen. And that's not going to happen because the Wix has just been sunk. And even then, these are tier 3 players. I mean, you can't expect miracles. They're not doing anything wrong that you don't see people in tier 10 ships doing wrong all the time. So the Taranto's dead, the Wix is dead, that just leaves Harfoot in the Nassau. Less than 2 minutes ago, they had the enemy team outnumbered 2-1. And now, the enemy team outnumbers them 2-1. It's amazing how quickly things can change in World of Warships. Enemy Tenryu doing his level best to get a fire set. And doing it without being spotted. You see, it is possible. There's no excuse. Well, okay, there are lots of excuses, but there's no excuse. Yeah. South Carolina, by the way, you might not know, was the first dreadnought to be laid down. Not HMS Dreadnought. Dreadnought was the first one to be built because the South Carolina took a long time to be built, but America technically started construction of the world's first Dreadnought battleship first. It was just the British who finished construction of the world's first Dreadnought battleship. And in some ways, the South Carolina is a superior design. It's got super firing turrets, unlike the more traditional, as you can see here on the Nassau, fore and aft as well as waist and turret arrangement, which was also shared by HMS Dreadnought. The benefit of having super firing turrets, such as the ones on the South Carolina, are that you can bring the same effective amount of guns to bear on target while having less turrets overall, which offers significant weight and stability advantages. Because if you have those turrets on the waist of the ship, like you do here on the Nassau and also on HMS Dreadnought, because not only do the turrets themselves weigh many hundreds of tons, which can cause stability issues because they're plonked right on the outside beam of the ship, you can't even put them there without reinforcing the outside beam of the ship. And that structural reinforcement is pretty damn heavy as well. So the advantages of having super firing turrets are chiefly in weight savings, and you can use those weight savings to either make the ship go faster or give it additional armour. Oof, that was a spanking and a half. Yeah, I don't think Harfoot's going to lose this battle. Or this fight against the Tenryu. He might still lose the battle. The South Carolina still has a lot of health. The Tenryu popped torpedoes from one side, but he may have torpedoes in the water from the other side. Did he turn around? He must have. There's the torpedo warning. Yep, well, he's managed to kill him. There's the Kraken Unleashed, but he's going to take one torpedo hit. And again, one flood. Very, very quick on the damage control trigger. But then again, nobody else is shooting at him for now. The South Carolina's on the other side of the island, so it's not like he's going to take another flood or another fire in the immediate future. Still 4 minutes of this game left. I don't think Harfoot's going to win this by running away from the South Carolina and running down the clock. There's no way, because the South Carolina is just on the other side of that island. There is no way he's going to get far enough away to go undetected by the time the South Carolina clears the island. So one way or another, somebody's going to die in the next minute. The thing is, though, Harfoot has a plan that's so cunning you could stick a tail on it and call it a fox. He's realised something that actually took me by surprise, and I'm certain it's going to take the South Carolina by surprise, and I'm curious to know how many of you are going to be surprised by what it is that Harfoot's going to do here. You see, he doesn't actually have to survive to win this game, as long as the South Carolina doesn't survive either, because he's 100 points ahead. If a game of World of Warships ends, and there are no survivors, if all of the ships have been sunk, victory goes to whichever team has the most points. And this is something that Southport understood in the Musashi in the previous battle. It didn't matter whether he survived or not, as long as the Georgia on his team stayed alive, and he was stuck on the wrong side of an island, so he was in no danger, and as long as the last remaining enemy ship sunk, it didn't even matter what the points were. Regardless of the points, if your team loses all of its ships and the enemy team doesn't, the enemy team wins. And what Harfoot and the Nassau understands, and which the South Carolina definitely doesn't, is that if both teams lose all of their ships, the team with the most points wins. Something that is well worth keeping in mind the next time, like Harfoot, you find yourself in a similar situation. My thanks to both Harfoot and Southport and everybody involved in today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.